social language that white women are in on that I have just never.
I was tagged in this because of my research on social class. It is whiteness, it's also social class. It's a mix of middle and upper class whiteness, white womanness, gender intersection, and toxic cultural norms. Let's break them down. My research on the unwritten rules of work identified that one of the unwritten rules as you move into a higher income environment is that they expect you to speak more indirectly. And this is really frustrating for people who come from working class backgrounds where being direct is more normalized. The previous creator talked specifically about academia. I saw this all the time in academia, of that people don't tell you directly they have a problem with you. They go around the problem and around your back. If you're neurodivergent and or working class, it's infuriating. It's also a wealthy white woman thing, or even a middle class white woman thing, because middle class, upper middle class white women are expected to be, yes, demure. I thought Jules's original video was making fun of this concept, actually, because upper middle class white lady prototype, stereotype, whatever it is different than working class white lady. Both have whiteness, both have white privilege, but there are different gender role expectations. I've shared on here before an article written by a white woman who had moved up from a working class background into high level academia. And she called herself an insider without, because she acknowledged she had white privilege, but she felt like she was missing a decoder ring for this new upper middle class environment. And she said that she didn't fit into their demure little ladylike idea. She wasn't a proper little lady. And having grown up in a very blue collar, yes, predominantly white area, I found that similar experience. It is part of, and yeah, it is part of whiteness. Now, why did I talk about class first before race? Because according to global research on the intercultural conflict style model, European, Euro-American people, they claim to be more also direct, more emotionally restrained, but more direct. And that has not been what my research has found within a class difference. Now, what is related to whiteness, but is not always the same, is white supremacy culture. And this is where everyone usually stops watching my videos, but I do have a video on that in my playlist on culture frameworks as well. This is a framework by Tima Okun and the late Kenneth Jones. Personally, I have found it very helpful in evaluating myself and improving my leadership style, etc. It has been widely criticized, and I think that's because people take it out of context. They only read these labels, and then they don't look at in what context they apply. So the ones I'm going to talk about here are right above my head here, the fear of open conflict. And right below me here, the right to comfort. In my second study on the unwritten rules of work, we analyzed our data to see if our unwritten rules fell into any of these buckets, and we combined these two, the fear of open conflict and the right to comfort, because they felt so similar. We couldn't code for them separately. Do these mean you should never be comfortable and that you always have to argue with people? No, that's why context matters. Right to comfort says that people in power have the right to comfort, both psychologically and physically. You cannot make them uncomfortable. And the fear of open conflict is that when someone raises an issue that causes discomfort, the response is to blame the person for raising an issue instead of responding to the concern they raised. Think about it. We've all seen this. This is like why people are afraid to be whistleblowers, even with protections. Not all white people do this, and not the only people who do this are only white. So inhale, exhale, my fellow pales. Similar to how I've said patriarchy is a system, not just a gender, white supremacy culture is also a system. This culture has things like people telling you you're oversensitive whenever you bring up an issue, or telling you to watch your tone instead of ever responding to what you actually said that was a legitimate concern. It's silencing dissent by saying, let's just keep a positive work environment. It's prioritizing harmony over equity and saying we're all one team here instead of acknowledging the real differences some people might be experiencing. This is bad for all of us, including white people, but it hurts people of color more. Just like patriarchy hurts men too, but it hurts women more. And the only way as a leader to work through this and as a human being is to realize that discomfort is where growth happens. We've all heard the analogy that a seed has to die to become a plant, that a caterpillar has to go into its cocoon before it can be the butterfly. We have to let go of perfectionism and be like, you know what, I'm going to make mistakes and I have to learn to be okay with that and to learn to say I'm sorry and do better. And we have to take pauses so that we're not so overwhelmed and stressed that when something comes up that needs our attention, we don't just think, I don't have time for this, I'm going to ignore it. In conclusion, awesome video from that first creator. I've made several videos about how white women, we have to do better, and I've been transparent in my own blunders, and y'all are still going to see me screw up on here, and you'll still see me apologize for it. But as always, intersectionality applies.